The following is a production of WEGL 91.1 FM.
That ball is gone. It's a walk-off home run for Stephen Williams.
WEGL Sports,
The Tigers are headed to the College World Series.
where every
Touchdown Auburn! Jacoby McClain!
game
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight. Holy cow!
lives. And welcome into another week of the Extra Point here on WEGL 911 and WEGLFM.com. Hello everybody, Jared Dillon, and joining me from wherever they may be is Jacob Hillman and Jack Hart. We finally reached it. This is game week, at least for Auburn football, and for a season that's had a lot of unknowns and ups and downs in, 5 days, 6 days, however many days it is. I'm not really good at math. Auburn plays Kentucky. And what's sure to be a fun, but I gotta say, probably a nauseating experience because it's probably not gonna go the way we think it's gonna go. But let's go ahead and start off the show. Jacob, how you doing this morning?
Doing well. As you said, it's game week, so that means the week's gonna take a while to get through because we're looking forward to Saturday, and especially this Saturday, we didn't know a few months ago if this was gonna happen, so just happy to be here and, ready to get to that point.
Jack, how about you? It's going to be a long week, but by the time you reach Saturday, that means it's on. Game week.
Right, yeah. It's not only game week, but Kentucky game week, as we like to dub it. So it will be a long week, and it's just nice to feel like you have something to look forward to again. As good as that sounds. And the air around these past 3 weeks has just felt a little off with no SEC football around. So I'm ready to see that rectified with an entire slate of full SEC conference games starting up this weekend. It's going to be pretty exciting.
There's a lot going on. We know the SEC starting up, so a lot of SEC games that we're going to be getting into this week. But college football recap, a new AP poll. As far as college football goes, the landscape side, not a lot of stuff happened other than the Louisville-Miami matchup. There were a couple of upsets, but they're kind of back in the polls. Also, big NFL news, mostly injuries, along with some pretty good games. The NBA, obviously the buzzer beater last night by Anthony Davis, and Major League Baseball, their season's coming toward an end. As we know it, but I think by the time Saturday rolls around, I think the season's over at that point, into September. So a lot to get into, and we'll start with college football first. First, I want to take a look at our pick'em standings because they're not great, but Davis is in first place, but he's 11-8. So I'm not sure if we know what's going on, but we're not doing too well. Me and Bay are tied at 10-9. Alex and I believe Jack are at 9-10 as well. Jacob, you're at 8-11. So, but you're not last, only because Devin forgot to fill out his bracket in the first week. So he'll have to.
Well, I guess I'll take that over.
Yeah. You're not last, but it's definitely
I pretty much
not
am last.
The only thing that happened last week pretty much was that the Baylor-Houston game was postponed, so we only picked 9 games. That game got thrown out. But let's talk college football and what we saw from the weekend. For the most part, I didn't watch college football as much this weekend as I probably would in the other weeks. I feel like there wasn't many exciting games, even though there was a top 25 matchup. But I mean, that Louisville-Miami game was fun to watch. The sleeper that night was Wake Forest-NC State, that I think I only watched 5 minutes of because I didn't even realize how good of a game it was up until the end. I know there was a Tulsa game against Oklahoma State. That was more depressing than anything because Tulsa got the lead and just did not know how to play football after that point. So what were kind of the big takeaways from college football this past weekend?
I do look at that Tulsa Oklahoma State game and I see it. I mean, Oklahoma State, I think a lot of people considered them a sleeper for the college football playoff this year. I think Desmond Howard picked them to get to the national championship game, and he's not the only one that had faith in Oklahoma State. But I don't know much. I don't know about Tulsa, and maybe they're a great Group of Five team, but it doesn't look like Oklahoma State's that sleeper team that some thought they would be. Chuba Hubbard did all right, 27 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. That's a solid game for him, but I don't know. They just didn't look that impressive. It wasn't the prettiest game to watch, but I mean, I don't know if Oklahoma State's going to be able to really fight their way to the top of the Big 12, and especially fight their way to the top of the college football if they play like they did on Saturday.
Jack, what was kind of the big takeaway from college football this past weekend?
I watched a couple of games this weekend. I pretty much spent all day on the couch checking out college football. I watched the first game I watched was Syracuse and Pittsburgh. Biggest takeaway from that game is that Syracuse has one of the most dysfunctional offenses I've ever seen trot out in a college football game. I think it has to do a lot with their quarterback, which they're really hurting from the loss of Eric Dungy. So really need a replacement quarterback up in New York for Syracuse, because on about three occasions in the fourth quarter they had a chance to go down the field and score and make it an interesting game, and I think they went 3-and-out all three times. Just overthrows, miscues. Pitt looked pretty good.
Heck yeah, they did.
Syracuse's offense was completely anemic on Saturday. Another game I saw was Duke Boston College. That game was all right. I think we all expected a little more out of Duke after the fight they put up against Notre Dame last week, but Boston College offense was just a well-oiled machine against Duke, as well as the defense. We're scooping up turnovers, and just blatant miscues in the Duke secondary led to, I think, one of the most wide-open receivers I've ever seen in the Boston College game. The entire half of the field to himself and cruised in for a touchdown. I also watched the UCF Georgia Tech game. That game was a little closer than the box score indicated. I believe UCF ended up winning by 3 touchdowns to make it 49-21. But up until the fourth quarter, Tech was driving 28-21 to make it a tie game and just could not convert. The Georgia Tech offense is also suffering a little bit from just lack of experience, I'd say. Their quarterback is a very talented kid, but unfortunately, he's just making some mistakes and doesn't have enough weapons around him. He lacked a little bit of awareness, ran for a couple fourth downs, and came up a little short on both of them just because of lack of awareness of where he was on the field, leaving some wide open guys in the end zone just out to dry. So I like Georgia Tech to maybe make a little noise in the ACC if they can figure out their offensive situation. And they were playing a very good UCF team, albeit without their starting quarterback of choice. The UCF team they played was very good on defense, and Georgia Tech made it a close game despite committing 5 turnovers, I believe. So Georgia Tech did a pretty good job on Saturday. On top of that, I of course watched that Louisville Miami game up to the half, as well as the Wake Forest NC State game up to the half. It's just exciting to see these Power 5 teams go at it once again. It seems like we've been kind of just picking up the scraps for these first 2 weeks, and to get a college game day experience, ranked teams, under the lights type of game, it was a little surreal on Saturday.
Some news happening over the night. Deion Sanders said he's coaching at Jackson State, not Jacksonville State. Jackson State. So the state of Miami, I want you to know, currently has Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, and Deion Sanders in it. So just hold on for that. That's gonna result in something. I'm not sure what in the next 5 years is gonna result in, but it's gonna result in something.
Jackson State.
Yeah, Jackson State.
I think it's in Mississippi.
It is in Mississippi.
You said the state of Miami. Which
did I say Miami?
Yeah, it'd be interesting if Miami became a state on its own.
I meant Mississippi.
If you believe the geography of the U turnover chain, it is its own state. It's in a different colored set of
Well,
Miami-Dade County area.
I mean, let's talk about. I mean, this is Monday, so usually we break out the overreactions. Uh, is Miami? Let me put this in a delicate way. Uh, After Clemson is the best way I can put this. Is Miami that team?
Well, not this year because Notre Dame is in the ACC, but I see it in Miami. I don't think this year is going to be anything special. I think they're going to really play well these first several weeks, but then I think the end of the year is going to come around and then they'll be back to the Miami we've come to know. But I think they're showing flashes. I think they're going to be at teams soon that, other than Clemson, they're the team to beat in the ACC. But currently, not yet.
Also, the three we need to be looking at in the ACC is UNC. We haven't gotten to see them play a lot, but they've got a pro perspective quarterback lining up as well. And they've been a team that has been in games they had no business being in. Looking at Clemson last year, and a couple of notable upsets, including that South Carolina game that they came out and won when nobody expected last year. So, with the coach that they have in Chapel Hill and the quarterback power of Sam Howell, I think that UNC could sneak up and get somebody. And they are ranked 12th, so it's not like they aren't receiving love from the committee. Another game I watched on Saturday was that Georgia-Louisiana game in Atlanta that went to overtime. So that was pretty exciting. First overtime game I've seen this year.
Do keep in mind, and this is news that happened, I believe, yesterday. North Carolina was not able to find an opponent for this weekend, so we won't see them this week again. The next time they'll play is, I believe, October 3rd when they take on Boston College. The game this past weekend, or the game that was supposed to be coming up against Charlotte, got postponed as the 49ers are dealing with some virus issues. So UNC not able to do much. And, I mean, looking at the ACC conference and remembering how they're kind of splitting this up, I mean, the top teams right now, and that doesn't mean much, right? Because we've only been through a couple of games of the season. But Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, UNC are kind of your big dogs right now. And following them is, your Pitt and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, who has not played yet, is still 20 in the AP rankings. For a team like Miami, in a couple of weeks, October 10th to be exact, Miami goes to Clemson to play Clemson, and what's probably going to be the game of the week that week. And it's surely going to set the tone for how the ACC is going to look in the next coming weeks. As for Notre Dame, they have a little bit of a tough schedule coming up when they got to play. I say tough. That same week, October 10th, they got to play Florida State, however tough that's going to be. And then they got to play Louisville and then Pittsburgh back-to-back before getting a breather against Georgia Tech, but then playing Clemson, Boston College, and North Carolina in a row. So Notre Dame doesn't have an easy schedule, but we'll definitely see what they're made out of by the time the end of the season rolls around.
I really think that Notre Dame, it's going to be interesting seeing them play this conference schedule. And are they doing divisions this year in the ACC?
I believe they are not. Okay. They are doing top two. Because even ESPN's website has it into one conference now. Yeah, they're not broken. They're not broken into. At. Yeah.
So I would imagine Clemson Notre Dame in the ACC championship would be interesting.
Yeah, it should. That should be how it shakes out. Yeah. I was trying to see if there was somehow, some way I could convince myself that Pitt would make its run, but I don't think I can. Pitt, if we're getting on the Pitt train, they play Louisville this week at home. Then they have NC State, Boston College. Their big game is going to be Miami, Notre Dame back to back. That's going to be dangerous.
And then they finish the season with Clemson.
Look, on Saturday, October 24th at midnight, ask me how I'm feeling about Pitt, and I'll tell you. Either I'm 100% on the train or I'm jumping off. Let's move on to the AP poll. Just want to run through that right quick. Marshall is in the AP poll for the first time in a long time. I believe since either 2016 to 2014. It's been a couple of years for the Thundering Herd. They're at 25. Louisville falls to 24. Kentucky at 23. Army 22. Pitt at 21. Virginia Tech at 20. Louisiana at 19. BYU, Memphis, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, UCF, Miami, North Carolina, and Texas A&M is at number 10. There is no number 9 because we have a tie at 8 somehow, some way between Auburn and Texas. So they'll both be number 8 this week, along with Notre Dame, LSU, who received a first place vote from somebody. LSU at number 6, Florida at 5, Georgia at 4, Oklahoma at 3, Alabama with a first place vote at 2, and Clemson with 59 first place votes at number 1. Just so you know, trying to get all the Alabama teams into the top 25. Troy has 1 vote, and UAB has 5. So we're getting close. Trying to push them into that poll.
Unfortunately, it won't. This is the closest we're going to get because the Big Ten returns to the rankings next week. And the Pac-12
Oh, do
potentially.
they? Oh, no.
They do. And potentially the Pac-12 will be back at some point.
So that AP poll, I mean, not much movement. I think your biggest jumper is Miami going to 12. And, I mean, I it's just good to see the ACC's represented more than just Clemson. I mean, just knocking outside the door is North Carolina, Miami, and you have Notre Dame at 7. Obviously, that's going to change with the Big Ten being introduced next week as well. I was kind of hoping that they would wait at least maybe 1 or 2 more weeks before that, just so we can try to push through some of these Group of 5 teams. Sucks for the Group of 5, though. I mean, they had a run. But
yeah. And they were, a lot of picks for Cincinnati in the college football playoff. That's not going to happen now, which I don't know if it's going to happen even without the Big Ten, but the Group of 5, their best chance was with only 3 Power 5 conferences.
Yeah. So looking at what's coming up this week in college football, there are, I believe, 3 top 25 matchups putting ranked teams against each other. You have Army and Cincinnati at 3:30 Eastern Time. At noon, Pittsburgh and Louisville. And also at noon Eastern Time, obviously, is Kentucky at Auburn. That game staying pretty steady in Vegas, 10.5. I've seen it at 11. I've seen it at 10.5. Auburn getting ready to take on. Has Joey Gatewood been named the starting quarterback for Kentucky yet, or that's just kind of under wraps?
Joey Gatewood still has not been cleared.
Has he not?
He is not.
Well, maybe that revenge game that we've been wanting may not come to fruition yet. But we'll keep an eye on that game as we get ready to get going. So, 18 minutes in, let's move on to the NFL because I know we have a lot to say about that. First things first, injuries. Injuries piling up all throughout the day. I think from the jump we saw people getting injured to the point where I believe when I was watching NFL Sunday Ticket, they had a tally and a list of who got injured. I don't know because I haven't looked it up. How was Christian McCaffrey doing? I know he got injured.
McCaffrey's okay. His injury is not that serious.
He just tweaked his ankle.
Okay, so it's just an ankle tweak. I saw him go down. I was like, well, I mean, I don't know what to think about this season anymore.
I think
from that perspective.
The biggest running back to go down was probably Saquon, who is geared to have a torn ACL.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was just out of nowhere, Saquon going down. And, if he is out for the season, I don't know what to think of the Giants.
Yeah, the Giants don't. I mean, give credit to the Giants. They fought back in that game against the Bears, and Daniel Jones tried to do his best. But without Saquon, I don't even know who the backup running back is for the Giants. I can't imagine that it's going to be as effective. He's not going to be as effective as Saquon. But
It's
so
Deion
many
Lewis.
injuries. Is Deion Lewis? Uh, it's going to be tough for the Giants. Probably the biggest losers of the weekend when it came to injuries is the 49ers. Not only are they going to think they're going to lose Bosa, they lost Jimmy G for what seems to be for the next couple of weeks. Uh, they lost. I mean, they lost a number of players. They lost a
I mean, four
running
players
back.
in the first half were injured.
Yeah,
Solomon Thomas, another defensive lineman, and Raheem Mostert, the running back, who has really shown that he might be something special.
I believe it did not. He opened up the game with a touchdown. What seems like
First play of the
again.
game.
Yeah, 80 yards for a touchdown. They were all sacrificed to the Jets of all teams. The Jets.
I mean, that's the thing. You lose four of your best players, and you still beat the Jets 31-13.
And now it looks like Mullins going to take over quarterback duty for the 49ers for at least the next couple of weeks. For the Niners, they're 1-1, but losing all those players is going to suck. Thankfully, at least the next 3 games, they have the Giants, Eagles, and Dolphins. You can kind of figure out they may be able to win 1 to 2 out of those. But they don't have Jimmy G back by the time they face the Rams, Patriots, Seahawks, Packers, Saints, Rams, Bills in that order. Yeah, they may not be doing too well. 'Cause that's one heck of a stretch that they got to go through in order to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this NFC West division is probably going to be the most hotly contested division in football this year, especially with that extra wild card they've thrown in. And everyone who I don't, maybe this is my overreaction Monday, but I think the alarm clock everyone had set for the Arizona Cardinals is ringing a little bit early, and they might be contending this year. But throw that in the mix of 2 10-win seasons last season from San Francisco and Seattle, as well as a resurgent Rams team that we saw on Sunday Night Football last week. I think we will be careening towards a December finish in the contested for this NFC West division, and who's going to get the 1, 2, maybe 3 seed in that division.
It's sad for the NFC West because with the injuries now, the 49ers, a Super Bowl team last year, is probably the worst team now. And you take away those injuries, I mean, I couldn't tell you who the bottom feeder team of that division is. It would have been easy to say Cardinals, but they've played so well in the past 2 weeks that it makes me want to believe in them.
It's easy to say Cardinals, but at the same time, the Cardinals have also come away with they're 2-0 with 2 double-digit wins, and Kyler Murray looks absolutely unstoppable, as well as DeAndre Hopkins, and Larry just keeps on going. That rock that they can build the team around. And if you've got Kyler Murray and 2 number 1 wide receivers, it's going to be – they're the Texas Tech of the NFL. No matter how bad that defense gets, the gun's up, and they're going to find a way to beat you in the air.
So just to kind of name like the biggest injuries from the week, Nick Bosa for the 49ers, Saquon Barkley for the Giants. They both expected to have torn their ACLs. We'll find out later today how that's looking. Drew Lock was in a sling. We don't really know the extent of his injury, but it looks to be a sprain of his AC joint. So the Broncos down their quarterback. Jimmy G looks like to have a high ankle sprain. Cortland Sutton injured his knee for the Broncos. Christian McCaffrey went down with his ankle injury, but he should be okay. Devontae Adams for the Packers. His hamstring was bothering him. Tavon Young, cornerback for the Ravens. He went down with a knee injury. Malik Hooker, what looks to be his Achilles, safety for the Colts. He went down as well. Brandon Sheriff for the Washington football team. Guard, he went down with a knee injury. Byron Jones, cornerback for the Dolphins. His groin. Mostert, a sprained MCL for the 49ers. Tyrod Taylor, which is probably the weirdest one that happened, a scary one. He had some chest issues for the LA Chargers, but he should be okay. Anthony Barr injured his shoulder for the Vikings. Brandon Linder, his knee for the Jaguars. I mean, the list just keeps going. Uh, Golly, so many people got. This is a list of about 30 people that have been injured this past weekend. It stops at 21, and they just list everybody else because it just got way too long.
And it sucks because I kind of thought if there was going to be a bunch of injuries, it'd be week one with the limited off season, limited training, and just everything going on. But here we are on week two. I guess it's just after taking the beating of week one, then everyone kind of fell apart. But it's going to shake up the football season a lot. And I mean, especially with the 49ers, who knows what's going to happen? They might miss the playoffs the year after making the Super Bowl. And that might not be because they took such a downward turn, but their division is just that insane.
Right, and yeah, I'm with you, Jacob. I really expect. It's hard not to correlate the uptick in injuries with the lack of experience the guys are having with no preseason, limited practicing, and it's making me kind of nervous for what is going to happen in week 3, what's going to happen in week 4, how these guys are going to have to adjust, change practice, and maybe jeopardize safety in order to continue this season. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what changes are made for week 3, what type of injuries we see in week 3, because honestly, the level of injuries that we saw in week 2 is not sustainable. And if that's what is coming out week after week, there's going to be some serious calling into question whether or not. I mean, the NFL is a well-oiled machine. It's been working probably the same way for around 10, 20 years, and with the health and science and all the money they put into player safety. So if players are dropping like flies like they did on Sunday, I don't think there's any way you can ride the season all the way 16, 17 weeks. So something's got to change quickly. And like you said, I really expected this more in week 1, but I think maybe it was all adrenaline in week 1, and when push came to shove here in week 2, rubber really hit the road, and the guys weren't able to stand up to it. But I really hope, just for the player safety's sake, changes are made in the front offices in order to make this as safe as possible for the players, because you wouldn't want career-ending injuries just because of a sloppy put-together season in 2020.
Well, you mentioned this year not getting through this year because of the injuries, but I look in the future and how the NFL is talking about removing the preseason. I don't think they're going to be able to do that because of this. Now, I understand maybe changing it to 2 games instead of 4, but you definitely can't get rid of it. You got to have a kind of a warm up, a tune up for these teams.
Yeah, they need something. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you don't have to like televise preseason games. Although I don't see why you wouldn't, because that's money, right? And for preseason games that don't matter. But these teams got to be able to at least scrimmage against each other. I know they do that from time to time, kind of in their own practice facilities. But they got to be able to hit each other before the season starts.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
I think you saw that in a lackluster product week 1. It was an entertaining week, don't get me wrong, but I think there was a lot of plays that would not have occurred had a preseason happened. And I mean, if a preseason had happened, I'd say that Bucs Saints game last weekend is a 1-score game, if not a Bucs victory, because you had Tom Brady throw not looking good in his pass progressions. You had him throwing a pick 6, which was a 14-point swing, and you had him just missing his receivers in throws that Tom Brady would not miss under other circumstances. So you just have a situation where not only is the preseason good for player health and safety, it's also good for an entertaining product on the field, which is all the NFL at the end of the day should be worried about, second player safety. Those are the 2 top priorities for the NFL.
Just switching into the individual games, we'll start with the biggest one that happened last night between the Seahawks and the Patriots. First things first, tough news for James White. What happened with his father and his mother? So that you never want to hear that. That was a tough one. It was great to see McCourty dedicate his pick 6 to James White early into the game. Yeah, and that hopefully the community and team rallies around him and
Just,
and
yeah.
picks him up when he needs it. Uh, moving into the game itself, after that Miami win for the Patriots, I didn't really know what to think of Cam Newton and this new look offense or what the defense was looking like. They lost so many guys. But they took on the Seahawks, which arguably is either the best team in the NFC or at least the second best. The Packers may have something to say about that. Don't get me wrong. But this is a very, very good Seahawks team, and the Patriots went toe to toe with them and was one play away from winning the ball game. So Seahawks 2-0, Patriots 1-1, but I mean, I can see after this game of people think that this could be a Super Bowl matchup that could happen later this season.
Yeah, and something I saw mentioned last night was how impressed I was Patriots fans on Twitter. They were impressed with how Cam Newton really spread the ball around to his different receivers, and they said this is better than what Brady did last year, and then anything he did. I mean, and you just look at the receiving stats. Edelman 8 catches, 179 yards. Damiere Byrd 6 catches, 72 yards. N'Keal Harry 8 for 72. Rex Burke had 4 for 47. And Jacoby Myers, he caught a pass. He's a tight end that doesn't get a lot of touches, but he's spreading the ball around. He's really getting it to different guys. And I think Cam Newton, when the playbook opens up, because it still doesn't feel like it's open all the way, you got to look out for the Patriots.
Right, yeah. Those Edelman over the top passes, a pass that really only Julian Edelman can come down with, that is 100% what Cam Newton was made to do. And seeing him just throw balls into the middle of the field, out between the hash marks for a wide open guy, that's exactly what you want to see, but with a dual threat quarterback like Cam Newton. And his ability to scramble, I mean, he has not lost that at all. He would do it himself when he needed to. If his progressions weren't right, he would take off and go to the sticks. That's exactly what you want to see out of a quarterback, not only a leader, but also a playmaker. And he can kill you both ways with his legs making a factor on that game-winning drive to be last night. He made some incredible throws and incredible rushes as well. Going back to the pick six celebration, I'm a enormous fan of the lack of cameraman and now the stationary camera that says "Celebrate Here," where you basically get a stage to present your message to national television. I hope that sticks around post-COVID.
I think I don't want to. I know it's Monday. I don't want to overreact either, but I mean, hopefully this means Cam Newton is back to peak Cam Newton. It's one game. It's against a good defense, and I want to see it more. But I just hope that Cam can just keep it consistent and keep showing why. There's a reason why he was MVP. There's a reason why he led the Panthers to a Super Bowl. There's a reason why he is the Superman that he portrays himself as sometimes.
I'll do it. I'll overreact and say Cam, maybe not to peak Cam, but he is as close as you can get to that because, he's past his prime. So it'd be kind of impossible for him to get back to that. But he's as close as you could possibly get to that. And as I said, once he's more comfortable, which, it's hard to say he looks uncomfortable right now. But I think once he gets in a better flow, he is really, really showing flashes of his greatness. Who knows? He could be in the MVP conversation by the end of the year. I don't think he's going to win it, but he'll be talked about for sure. And this is still a Patriots team that had several opt-outs. They had the most opt-outs of any other NFL team. So I look to the future like next year and think this could be a Super Bowl contender easily. The other thing is just he has more zip on the ball than he's had in 4 years. It just looks like normal Cam.
He's beaming kids just like Peyton was in that SNL skit. I mean, he's zipping it. All right, let's just go ahead and talk about it. Cowboys-Falcons. Okay, let's just break down what happened in this ball game. The Cowboys sucked. They fumbled the ball 4 times in the first 2 drives. They went down 20 or 23 to nothing. At home, this is all in Jerry World, by the way. So Jerry Jones is just sitting there in his own stadium, just looking like, what the heck is going on? Do I trade Dak by the time he gets off the field? I don't know. Do I fire Mike McCarthy after not one, but two failed fake punts that happened in that game for the Dallas Cowboys? Because, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The Cowboys stormed back in the second half. But, Matt Ryan and his offense, God bless them. They try so hard, but they can only get so far. They can't outrun the Cowboys. The Cowboys...
I don't know how they can't outrun the Cowboys. Like I said it in the game preview last week, how many steps Amari Cooper is going to be behind the Falcons secondary. They were running prevent coverage, and Amari Cooper was it's like he started the play behind the play. He was just 4 steps behind the cornerback. I don't know how they've let that happen.
The Falcons had the lead. The Cowboys came back, scored, and took the lead themselves. Or the Cowboys came back, scored, and got within a touchdown. Excuse me.
Well, they got within 9, which is still 2 scores because Dan Quinn decided it would have been fun to go for 2 and not get it.
So the Cowboys, this game is just so confusing on every front, but I guess the play of the game has to be the onside kick. That I don't know how your whole
play of the game.
I don't know how your whole hands team isn't fired for what just happened. At least the right side of the hands team.
The only thing I can think of is that Hayden Hurst, who I believe is number 81 on the Falcons, was not entirely clear on the rules, which, why are you on the hands team? Because it looks like, honestly, it looks like mind games. It looks like the Cowboys player was faking him out by not touching the ball, which the Cowboys player is not allowed to touch the ball until it goes 10 yards. But it looked like that made Hayden Hurst think he wasn't allowed to touch the ball. So they're both just watching the ball glide across the ground, not touching it, and until it goes 10 yards and the Cowboys jump on it. And
go ahead.
Not to break out my Jared conspiracy theory, but in all the slow-mo shots I saw of the ball, that thing looked super shiny.
Are you saying that? Are you saying they put Crisco oil on it or something?
Yeah, you could see the lights reflected of the stadium. That thing looked like smooth. And I'm saying 4 fumbles on 2 drives. You could do the math.
Well, the thing I got away from the onside kick was it seemed like the Falcons were just thinking, oh, it's not going to go 10 yards. There's no need for us to touch it. But the way that thing spun, I don't know how it went 10 yards. Even the announcer, I forget who the announcer was for the game. But, he was just like, oh, this ball has to go 10 yards. And then it did. And it was just it was the greatest onside kick I've ever seen. I'll be honest. I've never seen an onside kick go like that.
That
one is up there with great onside kicks with the NFC Championship Seahawks one, where they did a pop up and it bounced off the guy's helmet and recovered by Seattle. And, if you're gonna let young Shao Ku get 12 points on you, you're gonna have to pull off an onside kick. I think it's what the universe wills.
If you would have told me the Falcons would have went up 20 points, if you would have told me last week the Falcons would be up 20-0 in the beginning of the game, Dak Prescott would have 3 rushing touchdowns, and that we would have saw Andy Dalton, because we did, for that split second, I would have thought, oh my goodness, I don't know what happened to the Cowboys. And 2 fake punts, by the way. I would have thought the Cowboys imploded on live TV, and they almost did. With 7 minutes to go, with 8 minutes to go in the game, they were down 39-24, and they somehow rallied off 16 points in order to win that ball game.
Did y'all see the Adam Schefter tweet this morning?
I did not. Is Dan Quinn fired?
He should be based off this tweet. Falcons are the first team since 1933 to lose a game despite scoring 39 points and having 0 turnovers. Up until Sunday, teams have been 440-0.
It's such a Falcon stat. It's so sad.
It is. It's insane.
The Falcons are 0-2, and they have nobody to blame but their head coach. Because, that's just...
I don't know. You could get mad at Julio, too, for dropping that touchdown pass.
You could, but... If you score 39 points in the NFL, you better win a ball game.
You're correct about that.
And you better recover that onside kick. I think that's kind of the biggest thing for me. I
Well,
mean,
if you're not going to recover it. It's got to be because the Cowboys make a great play, not because you stare at it.
they better figure out what happens by this weekend. They play the Bears, which it boggles my mind that the Bears are 2-0, but here we are. But if they don't figure out what happens with the Bears, they got to play Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And the way things are going, that game may actually be like 53-50 with both those offenses. So that may be a fun game to watch. But I don't know how long Dan Quinn's going to last throughout this season. We'll get to 0-2 head coaches in a second, but some other games that happened.
With a week 2 win against the Falcons, the Cowboys are now competing for the coveted Bird Gauntlet. It's never been done, but week 2 against the Falcons, week 3 against the Seahawks, week 6 against the Cardinals, either week 8 or 16 against the Eagles, and week 13 against the Ravens. The Cowboys have a rare opportunity to do the impossible and defeat all 5 Bird teams in one season. They are 1/5 of the way there.
I'm going to assume because it's the Cowboys, it's not going to happen.
They probably will lose it next week.
They'll split against the Eagles easy.
What if I told you that the Cowboys were down 20-0? Would you change your tune?
Yeah, I would definitely. Some other big games that happened this past weekend. We saw a fun one in LA as the Chiefs took on the Chargers with Justin Herbert at quarterback.
I mean, do you start Tyrod Taylor for the rest of the season? I don't think so.
I saw an article. It brought up that situation, and it seems as though that if Tyrod Taylor is 100% ready to go, he will be the starting quarterback.
Here's the thing, and that sucks because Herbert looked fantastic. Other than the one really bad interception he threw, where he's rolling to his left and threw across his body, I was impressed by Herbert, and I'm not high on him at all. Coming into the draft, coming out of the draft, I was thinking, I thought, this guy's gonna be kind of a bust. I kind of thought him and Josh Allen are similar to me. I felt the same way about both of them, and Allen's starting to look solid, and Herbert showed flashes in his first game. So I don't know. I think Herbert should be the starter, and he showed why against the NFL's best team.
So here's the quote that I was looking for before I went any farther. Anthony Lynn, the head coach of the Chargers, said this: "I'm going to wait and see what type of health Tyrod is in. He's our starter for a reason, and if he's 100% ready to go, he's our starter. But I know that Justin can pick up the slack if he can't." So Tyrod's in if he's good. If not, I mean, it seems like an easy switch to Herbert.
Should we be worried about the Chiefs?
The Chiefs?
It looked a little off.
This game reminded me, and it's only because I'm a Colts fan. The Colts beat the Chiefs last year on either Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football in a sloppy game. It was like 16-13 or something like that, or like 19-13. Such a sloppy game from a Colts team that would eventually go 7-9. And I feel like this was that game again, where early in the season the Chiefs just looked sloppy, and they lost to it. And this time they won, but they were close against a team they shouldn't have been. But they should be okay. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be worried about them, because they did show some weaknesses. But I think this is gonna be more of an outlier than a consistent problem for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Be worried.
Other takeaways from this game, purely aesthetically, SoFi Stadium looks unbelievable in a day game, as well as the Chargers look absolutely great in their new white jerseys. So there's that.
True.
Another takeaway from the weekend for the Chargers, this is going to hurt all of us, but Justin Herbert became the third quarterback in NFL history to throw for 300 yards and lose his starting his first game. The other two quarterbacks being Andrew Luck and Cam Newton. So I'm sorry to bring that up, but That's just the way things go.
I'll never
Uh,
forget that first game against the Cardinals.
it was funny because when the Chargers were driving and they were trying to win the game toward the end. I really thought Justin Herbert was gonna like throw from the 50-yard line and throw it out the back of the end zone again, a la
I
what they
said
did
the
against
same
Auburn.
thing.
But they didn't let him throw it because they probably knew he'd throw it out of SoFi Stadium. So
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, can we talk about Harrison Butker making the game-winning field goal 3 times
that's true. I mean, the man
from
probably
'58?
the definition of ice in his veins. I mean, automatic. Some teams can't even find a kicker to consistently hit extra points. Talking about you Titans, but Harrison Buckner 58 yards 3 times in a row. I mean, other than like rushing onto the field and with metal baseball bats and beating him down, I don't think you're gonna stop him from making a field goal.
I thought Romo jinxed him.
Yeah,
He's making this, and I
Well,
was like,
yeah, I thought.
this is how it goes down.
Well, I thought because it was initially a 53, and then they had
True.
a false start to make it a 58, and I thought that was going to do it. Because I mean, icing the kicker, pretty sus, but an extra 5 yards when it's already from the logo,
yeah.
that's a whole new ball game.
I think the crazy thing is he had a 58 yarder earlier in that game, so he broke his career record and then tied it 3 more times unofficially, one more time officially, and I guess the Chiefs' offense is so explosive.
Had
If
the Santa Ana wins at his back.
if the Chiefs' offense just gets to the logo, that's just an automatic 3 points, just on the board. So
Until it matters, presumably.
yeah. Some other games that happened. Titans Jaguars had a outstanding game down to the bitter end. Gardner
Yeah,
Minshew still looking pretty good. But the Titans are on top of the AFC South for right now.
that's one of
As
those games that just kept popping up on Red Zone, and I was like, what is going
Why?
on? How are so many points being scored? I
uh,
mean, what the Jaguars, who Devin was reprimanded, verbally abused by Carter Bird for picking them to win 5 games, where it was one bounce of the ball away from starting the season 2-0. So
and I mean the Jaguars next 4 games: Dolphins, Bengals, Texans, Lions.
I was almost say they could get it these next 4 games until he said the Texans, but it wouldn't be crazy for them to. It wouldn't be crazy for them to be 4-2.
It would not be. And we talked about the NFC West being, we don't know who the worst team in the division is. The AFC South is kind of the same way too. It's easy to say Texans because it's easy to make fun of the Texans for trading away literally everybody, and Deshaun Watson's running for his life. But I mean, if he just has a competent offense and a front office, looking at you, Bill O'Brien, I mean, the worst team probably is in that division, the Colts. And that's saying a lot. If the Texans just had not traded away literally everybody, it feels like that's a tough division to figure out, especially if the Jaguars and Titans are as good as advertised. What other takeaways from this past weekend in NFL did you guys see?
the Broncos game, the Steelers need a lot of help.
The Steelers 2-0, but it wasn't without a couple of big plays from their offense. Big Ben, I saw Big Ben throw a touchdown on the run. I think that was kind of a weird thing to see.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it was.
apparently he still has it or something. And it's a Steelers team that is trying their best at trying to stay in step with the Ravens. They have the Texans next week, which it shouldn't be hard, but you never know. But the Steelers team that is trying their best with I don't want to say the end of an era, but we know Big Ben's not going to last very
Yeah.
long, and then after that, we don't know who their quarterback's going to be.
My overreaction is that the Steelers cannot win it with Big Ben anymore. His awareness has dropped so significantly that, as that game was coming down to crunch time, I think maybe the drive before the Broncos had a chance to go down the field and score. Big Ben, I mean, he had all day to throw, and he just threw a goose up to the sideline to get picked off by the Broncos. It was not good. It looked like a rookie who was trying to force the issue. It did not look like a Super Bowl champion veteran quarterback standing in there and making a cool-headed decision. It just seemed like this Pittsburgh team. It's the end. It's the last gasps of a dying era, and I just don't see the awareness there for Big Ben or the athleticism to make throws at a championship level, especially when you're competing in a division with the Ravens.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Before the season, I thought they might start the year 0-2. Now they're 2-0, so makes me doubt what I expected from them. But I'm not gonna buy into them just because they're 2-0 now. I think you're still correct that right now they're 2-0, but it doesn't look that good.
Shout out to Jeff Driscoll. He actually didn't play bad.
He played all right.
He almost won the game for them.
18 for 34, 256, 2 touchdowns, and interception, which is fine. He got sacked 6 times for 53 yards. So a Harrison Buckner field goal. But man, he didn't play bad. It's kind of sad. Drew Lock only threw 5 passes. He was not in there for long. But he should be okay. Let's talk about these teams that are 0-2. So we're talking about the New York Jets, Miami Dolphins, the Bengals, Texans, Broncos, Giants, Eagles, Vikings, Lions, Falcons, Panthers, rest in peace. Out of these teams, and obviously some of them can be crossed off pretty early, right? The Panthers being one of them. Which head coach is on the hot seat right now that's just burning up? I think we all know who it is, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, it's Dan Quinn.
Okay, we're not on the same page. I was going with somebody else.
Are you thinking Adam Gase?
Yeah, I was thinking Adam Gase.
Okay.
Daniel Patrick Quinn of the Atlanta Falcons.
You know, maybe I'll have them tied at first because
I think that's fair.
He's been sitting on a throne of ashes since the Super Bowl. His seat could not be any hotter, and yet.
I think
how they decided to keep him.
I want to see if I can look it up right quick as we're discussing it. But I believe Vegas has odds on who gets fired first, and I believe Adam Gase was first.
That makes sense. The Jets just look horrendous. He's not close.
Coach fired.
I mean, when the 49ers, as injured as they were, had a 3rd and 35. They ran a counter and picked up 50 yards.
Yeah, McKinnon, yeah.
That's JV.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Matt Patricia's a dark horse in that race too because this man has done literally nothing with this Lions team.
Is I think he should be fired. I think the front office is too in their own heads to fire Matt Patricia. I don't think he's not a good coach, but I think people are blind to it up in Detroit. He's maybe the worst performing coach right now, but I don't see him as the most likely to get fired right now. Those aren't two direct correlating things. You got to remember that was it Jim Caldwell they fired?
9-win season.
Yeah, 9-win season. Matt Patricia has won 9 games since. He has been 9-23-1 since the firing of Jim Caldwell. So, I've seen it said before, but I think it really holds true. You cannot use cheating off the Patriots' homework as a success formula in the NFL and expect it to happen. It works for a little while. I think the Lions were okay Patricia's first year because people didn't expect it, but as soon as people are onto what you're doing and just poaching a Patriots coordinator is not the only step to success. There needs to be a little more thought behind it. And Detroit continues to waste talent both off the field and on the sideline as they continue to flounder in irrelevance, to put it in blunt terms.
I'm trying to find the updated odds for the first coach to be fired. At least September 15th is the last one I can find. Adam Gase was first, followed by Patricia, Quinn, Marone, and then O'Brien. O'Brien sitting at plus 1,000, so pretty much. I mean, I'm gonna cut it off at right there. That's before this past weekend. I gotta assume Dan Quinn is rising up the ranks pretty quick.
I would
But
think, yeah, Doug Marone's not in that big of trouble unless he goes 1-15. If he can sneak up, I mean, if they can play as hard as they did against a playoff team like they did this weekend, if Gardner Minshew can continue to look more like Uncle Rico every weekend, I think that the team has a really good chance to at least play spoiler come December.
and a team that we're not mentioning right now, but they are falling apart pretty quick. I'm only mentioning them because they played my team. It's the Vikings. They
Yeah, that was the only game that we as an Extra Point crew completely whiffed on. All, I believe 7 of us.
7 of us.
And
Yeah.
we were pretty good this weekend in terms of picks. At least someone got every game right, except for this one.
Yeah, it was. I'm going the updated NFL pick'em standings for the Extra Point. Alex is in first at 25-6, which is actually a really good record when it comes to NFL pick'em, especially when we didn't have a preseason game.
Right.
Our NFL pick'em's like night and day from our college football pick'em, which would probably tell you a lot. Bay's in second at 22-9. Me and Davis are tied at 21-10. Or me, Davis, and Devin are tied at 21-10 in third place. And then tied sixth place is you two at 20-11.
Do we have to talk about the pick'em standings every week?
Yes.
Because I'd like to not to.
Yes.
I mean, as far as unanimous decisions, we all picked the Cowboys, Niners, Pack, Bills, Vikes, Cards, Ravens, and Chiefs, as well as the Seahawks, and all but one of those came out victorious, our unanimous decisions. And of course, that was the Minnesota Vikings taking on Jared's Indianapolis Colts. So
that even I picked against.
What was the secret, Jared? What did the Colts do this weekend? To be so good?
The secret was just letting Kirk Cousins throw the ball. Because in the fourth quarter, the man had a 0.0 passer rating. He was that bad. And for a Vikings team that has Dalvin Cook, I forgot he was on the football team up until the fourth quarter. That probably tells you a lot what's happening with that ball club. And I mean, give a shout out to Rodrigo. I'm sorry. Give a shout out to Rodrigo Blankenship. Yeah.
No, don't give him a shout out.
I was thinking that.
I mean, he's a good kicker. I'm not gonna lie. Replacing Vinatieri. Yeah. I know he's from Georgia, but the moment he took off the red and black and put on the blue and white, he's my boy to the end until he does something that I can't forgive.
Just wait till the season depends on it, dude.
Oh, believe me, I'm not gonna be watching.
Then that red and black will still be on. Trust me.
But he played very well. Phillip Rivers played well. Even though he had the interception in the red zone. But the defense picked off Kirk Cousins 3 times. And I think that was the big difference maker. They held the Vikings to 175 yards. 175 yards for this Vikings NFL franchise offense. The last 2 weeks of me calling high school football, our starting running back for Hanley has had over 200 yards rushing. And I watched the Vikings put up 175 yards in total offense. And it's supposed to be an NFL team. I don't know if I buy that part. But the Vikings are 0-2, and it looks like Zimmer is not in the best of places. Not saying he's going to get fired, but he needs to turn that ship around pretty dang quick if he wants to make sure that his name doesn't pop up on headlines saying, "What are you doing?" So, they got that going for them.
Let's talk about that Buffalo-Miami game down in Hard Rock Stadium in South Beach that was delayed for lightning. Mercifully, so we didn't have to watch it during the noon slot. It got pushed to the 3:30 slot effectively.
It's so crazy because at the time where I think everybody started getting injured, CBS lost the feed to that game for like a good 35 to 40 minutes. That game was not on anywhere. If you got any updates, it was from beat writers updating the score. Because
like
CBS lost the feed.
The XFL truck didn't have gas in the generator, and they just lost the feed. I thought that's what happened. So we had I mean, Miami showed out against. I mean, 4 touchdowns against maybe a top 5 defense in the league, making it a one-score game, taking the lead in the fourth quarter. I think the Dolphins impressed a lot of people this weekend.
Yeah, I think for everybody each week calling for when is Tua coming in, right? Because that happens every single week. Fitzpatrick, I mean, look at these stats for Fitzpatrick. Keep in mind how long this guy's been in the league for.
Yeah.
31 for 47, 328, 2 touchdowns.
I see your Fitzpatrick, and I raise you one Josh Allen, 24 of 35, 417 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
I mean, Josh Allen's playing pretty well. And last week, when we were talking about AFC Championship teams, and we weren't allowed to pick repeating teams, and I ended up with the Bills of all teams. Hey, that's looking pretty good right now, I gotta admit.
I mean, the Bills have pushed for relevancy. I think they've made the playoffs 2 of the last 3, or maybe all 3 of the past years, starting in 2017. The missing piece of the puzzle for the Bills has been the offense. The defense has always been there, but I mean, when you show up to the playoffs and you hang 3 on Jacksonville, you can't expect to go far in the playoffs. But and then I think last season we had the game in Houston where they maybe scored 13 in overtime. So.
Oh yeah, that game where Josh Allen went completely erratic and just started like doing random things.
That game where Houston did not give the ball back to the referee in the end zone and Buffalo jumped on it thinking it was a touchdown. You remember that sequence of events? There was that game. So yeah, the Bills' offense has been the number one problem for the past 3 years, ever since Sean McDermott has been up there, former Panthers defensive coordinator up in Buffalo. That's been the issue. They drafted this guy out of Wyoming knowing he could be a big playmaker. He surprised a lot of people with his legs, and he's really starting to come into his own as a passer. Now that they got Diggs, 153 yards, 1 touchdown on 8 receptions, I think the pieces are finally starting to fall into place in Buffalo, and I'll be excited to see the first Pats game against Buffalo because we may see a changing of the guard in the AFC East. AFC North, East, for the first time in 10 years. We may see the first Patriots not winning the division since 2008 with the Dolphins.
There are so many good games that are going to be on at different times next week, and the Buffalo's part of one of them. At your 11 a.m. noon Eastern time kickoff, 2-0 Rams, 2-0 Bills. They'll be facing off next week. When you get to your later afternoon games, take your pick. But the funnest one's probably going to be Cowboys at Seahawks. Sunday Night Football is Packers Saints, and then Monday night is Chiefs Ravens. So each time slot has a big premier game that's going to be happening, I feel like. So the NFL should be a lot of fun next week as well.
We have bye weeks next week, or does that start week after next?
I feel like
bye week 4.
I think everybody's playing next week.
Yeah, there's nothing like a 16-game slate to keep you entertained all weekend.
If you're wondering what Thursday Night Football is, it is Dolphins Jaguars. So take your pick with that.
Not sure I'm going to go out of my way to watch that one.
I mean, as much as we like to poke fun at Thursday Night Football, I think that's a pretty evenly matched matchup. It could be pretty entertaining.
I think people like the Jaguars and Gardner Minshew, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is memeable enough for people to like him. So.
Yeah, I think it's a turning point for both teams. I mean, they're going to have the spotlight. The Dolphins, if they win, the season's not complete. I mean, you go 0-3 and you're the Dolphins, there's not much hope for a turnaround. And then Jacksonville, for them, if they can beat the Dolphins, they have a chance to head into Week 3 2-1, which I don't think anyone saw coming. So, I think it's a big game for both teams, as irrelevant as it may seem in the grand scheme of things. As you mentioned, these are 2 coaches that are on the hot seat, so it's a big turning point for both of these programs. If you take it a look from a micro perspective rather than a macro perspective of the whole league, and I think it's a perfect game for Thursday night.
Well, switching from the NFL to the NBA, obviously a big game last night, and it ended with an AD buzzer-beating 3 to seal the deal for the Lakers. Lakers win 105-103 over the Nuggets to take a 2-0 series lead in the Western Conference Finals. A Nuggets team that stormed back in the second half, putting the Lakers in their place. However, Jokic and the Nuggets weren't able to keep him down for long. With 2 seconds left, AD got the ball, stepped back, mouthed Kobe, and that was pretty much the end of that. As
I mean,
yeah,
the story of that game was AD versus Jokic for the Nuggets. I mean, Jokic went on a 9-0 run to put the Nuggets in a position to win the game, and if not for those late game heroics by AD, to actually win the game for the Nuggets, because he had a long three from the top of the arc, as well as a second chance putback to go up, get a 9-0 run going to really get a sputtering Nuggets offense the push they needed to compete in that game. So, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the other guys on this Nuggets team, but it was Jokic who kind of came out of nowhere and used his size and his scoring ability to put the Nuggets in a position to win the game. And as much as you like to see those Nuggets compete, it's hard to come back from 0-2. I think if the Nuggets had a position to take one away from the Lakers, it was right there, and AD had other plans.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I'm not going to doubt the Nuggets because we've done that all playoffs long, and they've proven us wrong both times.
I'm gonna doubt them.
Yeah,
I'm not saying to pick them to win the series, but I'm not going to assume a sweep already, even though in my mind, yeah, that's what is going to happen. But my heart's telling me they're at least going to get 1 or 2 games. So
My heart's telling me I can't be wrong 3 times in a row about this Nuggets team.
that's what Davis referred to as a gentleman's sweep, a 5-game series loss.
Yeah. So it's the Nuggets team that has to find its way through this fog as they get ready for their Tuesday game. There is no game today. I guess thankfully the Celtics and the Heat have the day off. They're not going to be playing today. I don't know if that was scheduled or not, but they're not playing today. I thought they were just based on how things were going, but they have a little bit of rest, so hopefully they're able to rehab a little bit and get right back into it. So no NBA today. Tuesday will be Game 3, Lakers Nuggets. Lakers are favored by 6.5. That's at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. And then Wednesday, Game 4, Boston, Miami. Boston 2.5 point favorite as they try to even up the series. And this is a Celtics team that needed a big win. If they went down 3-0, that series was probably going to be over. And what looked like to be a sweep. But for the Celtics, I mean, they played very well. I mean, they got on the heat from the jump and it just never looked back. And it's a Celtics team that needed that. They needed that big win. I think they're getting a lot of confidence back. And if they can even this up at two apiece in the next coming days, I think you have a brand new series on your hands. And you never want a team to get on a run on you, winning 2 straight. And I think that he need to watch out for these Celtics.
yeah, I think I really like the Heat, but like you said, the Celtics might be the better team overall. And if the Heat aren't careful, then we could see the Celtics in the finals.
So
As poor as the Celtics performed in the first 2 games, I think it's shown great resilience of them to come back and make the series interesting. They were frankly dead to rights after the first game and the second game. The Celtics did not show much fight as after the offensive and defensive performance that the Heat put on. It looked like they were the more complete team and the more championship-ready team, ready to compete for a championship. And the Celtics have put on a complete turnaround in order to make this thing interesting.
And just keep in mind, at the end of this week, this is what we'll have. At the end of this week, Auburn football will be getting ready for their 11 a.m. kickoff against Kentucky. The NBA Finals may likely be set at that point by Saturday, Sunday this weekend. If not, I mean, I think Game 7 for both series is like Monday, Tuesday of next week, if they go to Game 7. The MLB Playoffs should be pretty much set by the time the weekend rolls around or by the time the weekend is done. And to top it all off, because I know you guys are itching to talk about it, The NHL Stanley Cup Finals is happening right now, and the
Yes,
Dallas
sir.
Stars has took a 1-0 lead on the Tampa Bay Lightning. I can't tell you at all what's going on because I just don't follow hockey that closely. I need to, but I'm rooting for the Dallas Stars only because the Lightning are favored and I like the underdogs.
And their goal song was written by Pantera. So I mean, how can you root against that?
I mean, all I see is that the Stars won 4-1 in Game One, so it seems that Game One was lopsided from the jump. It
Yeah.
seems.
I don't like the Stars as a Preds fan. They're a division rival, so I'll take the Lightning any day.
So
We'll see what happens.
Jerry, but you're right about the just like this week being a lot. I remember back in a few months ago when we had no sports, and my thought process was this fall is about to be the greatest fall with sports ever, and this is the week.
When,
This is the
when,
week we've been waiting for.
when before or ever again could you flip channels between a Sunday night football game and the NBA Finals?
That it's unbelievable, honestly.
yeah, and I was I was gonna mention the WNBA conference finals, but I saw that one of their games got postponed because of COVID. So that happened. They're getting ready for their finals matchup as well. I'm trying to think of anybody else who's coming up on their final series. I don't know what NASCAR's doing. Don't ask me. I don't even know. I don't even know who won the last game. Who won the last race. Oh, I guess it was Kevin Harvick. He won. He won at Bristol. I don't even know who these other three guys are. Okay, Kyle Busch, E. Jones. I don't know who that is. T. Reddick. I don't know who that is. I assume A. Almirola. I don't know who that is either.
Eric
Well,
Almirola.
Is that Eric
What's your,
Almirola? I have no idea. He led one lap though.
What's your weekend recap on the U.S. Open, Jacob?
Well, I really am impressed with Bryson DeChambeau, and I think it's hilarious that he won. Like all the hate that he received when they think he's big head and stuff. It shows that what he's been doing is working. When he's one of two guys under par, and he beats the other guy that's under par by 3 or 4 strokes. DeChambeau is good, and DeChambeau is here to stay, and I think he's going to get several major sports careers done, especially if he keeps up with his work ethic and this plan that he has. And then my other takeaway is that Matthew Wolff is going to be a very good pro. I mean, he's only 21. Last year he won a national championship at Oklahoma State, and he's already competing for the U.S. Open. I look for him to be a contender in every major moving forward that he plays in.
All right. So what's the next one up for golf? I don't know their schedule or anything like that.
The next major is the Masters.
Is that October?
No, it's November.
It's November.
It's like November 15th. It's the same weekend as Alabama LSU. So CBS is going to have the Masters. They're going to transition into Alabama LSU, and then on Sunday they're going to have the Masters and transition into the NFL.
So CBS with the
bag. I want all the golf takes from Tony Romo that day.
Oh, we're going to get a lot of them.
So the Masters up next. That'll be in late November. I don't even know who Auburn plays that week, but it's probably somebody I don't like.
I believe it's Tennessee.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's somebody I don't like. So let's move on to Major League Baseball as there's no NBA game tonight. Baseball is coming down to the wire. This is the last big week in Major League Baseball. Games last night. Unfortunately, the Yankees won 10 straight and then got backhanded by the Red Sox 10-2. So that sucked. But the Cardinals keep winning. They beat the Pirates 2-1. Orioles 2-1 over the Tampa Bay Rays. Reds 7-3 over the White Sox, but that's all right because the White Sox have clinched their playoff berth. Indians 7-4 over the Tigers. Marlins took Game 1 of a doubleheader against the Nationals 2-1. Braves 7-0 over the Mets. Astros 3-2 over the Diamondbacks. The big news from the Astros is that Verlander is done. It looks like he needs Tommy John surgery, so that sucks for Stros fans. Brewers 5-3 over the Royals. Blue Jays 6-3 over the Phillies. Rockies 6-3 over the Dodgers. Giants putting up a bunch more runs. They beat the Athletics 14-2. Rangers 7-2 over the Angels. Padres 7-4 winners in 11 against the Mariners. Then the Nationals got revenge in Game 2 as they beat the Marlins 15-0, and that one was no fun for the Marlins. And the Twins beating the Cubs 4-0.
So yeah, in the American League, it's pretty much squared up who's going to be suiting up for the postseason. In the East, you have the Rays and the Yankees have both clinched. Rays with a 35-19 record, Yankees with a 31-22 record. Yankees 3.5 games back. They're going to have to go on a crazy run if they want to get the division crown. In the Central, the White Sox with the best record in baseball currently, 34-19. They have a chance the playoffs as well as their division mates. The Minnesota Twins are a mere 2 games back, so pretty hot race there. And then in the West, you have the Oakland A's who clinched yesterday. And it looks like the remaining 2 spots have pretty much been shaken out. The Blue Jays have a 98% chance of making playoffs, as well as the Astros have a 99.7% chance of making playoffs. So I think we can see where those last 2 spots are going to. The only teams to not be mathematically eliminated yet are the O's, the Tigers, the Mariners, and the Angels, all with less than 1% chance of making it. It's a little more interesting out in the National League. The only 2 teams to clinch so far are the Dodgers and the Padres out in the West. So they both have the only 2 to clinch. The division leaders are the Braves. They are bound to clinch. I think their magic number is 5 right now, so they will clinch sometime this week. The Marlins are right behind them with an 83% chance to make the playoffs. 3 games back. 4 games back are the Philadelphia Phillies with a 73% chance to make the playoffs. They look like they're going to get the 3rd spot in the East. The Mets lagging behind with about a 6% chance to make the playoffs. So a lot needs to fall for the Mets to make it to October. And in the Central, you have the Cubs pretty much locking up their postseason spot, although not officially yet. The Cards right behind them with an 81% chance to make it to October. And then a hotly contested race here as the Reds and the Brewers are in a 50-50 dead heat to see who can make it to the playoffs. They're both 4.5 games back of the Cubs, so a big week for Reds and Brewers fans. And then out west, you have the Diamondbacks eliminated, the Rockies with a 2% chance to make it, and the Giants needing a lot of help with a 40% chance to make the postseason, sitting right at 500. So the American League, you can kind of close the book on them until next week. With the National League, it is going to be one exciting week of baseball, especially in that always competitive NL Central division with the Cardinals, Reds, and Brewers all fighting for 2 playoff spots.
I'm going to hate it because if you look at because the Reds and Brewers play today. So they'll be playing a 3-game series. The Cardinals' last 5 games, one of them being a doubleheader because they have to make it up, is the Brewers. So God help me those last 5 days when the Cardinals inevitably lose 4 out of those 5 games against the Brewers, and I'm just deflated. But by the end of this weekend, or by the end of this week into the weekend, we'll know how baseball looks. If you would have told me in January that we would reach the last weekend or last week of baseball and the Braves haven't clinched the division only because the Marlins were trailing them, I would have thought you were stupid. But here we are. How do we feel about the Marlins being in the playoffs? Is that a...
I think, well, yeah, we're looking at, I think, 5 of the longest MLB postseason droughts are on their way to being ended this year. Padres have already clinched. The White Sox have already clinched. Those are 2 that are ending. The Marlins and Phillies are both have a better than 0.5% chance to make it to the playoffs. Those are 2 very long playoff droughts. And I believe the Seattle Mariners are the lowly ones who are going to be left out, which is only fitting for the saddest franchise in baseball. They have
still 0.9% chance.
A 1% chance to make it to October. So it wouldn't be the craziest thing to happen this year, but I would not bet the farm on it.
Quickly before we end, let's talk about Monday Night Football and Tom Brady and these Buccaneers. They played the Panthers, and Brady... I don't want to say anything too egregious on Mondays.
I'm going to take issue with what NFL... ESPN said he was outstanding in the win? No, he was not outstanding. He was fine. He was 23 of 35, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 1 pick six that got called back. So Tom Brady played fine. It's clear that week 1 was a bit of an anomaly for him. He was playing against a pretty soft secondary in Carolina. But, I mean, he had a lot of overthrows, passes, fades to the sidelines that bonked off his receivers' helmets. It seemed he was just a little, like, one margin of error off to the point where it started to affect his play. He had on the last drive, he had a receiver drop a pass in the end zone, which I guess could have gone for a touchdown, but it was a little bit troubling to see how badly he was missing some wide open receivers. I mean, as a Panthers fan, I was thankful because they kept the Panthers in the game a little bit, but it wasn't a great day for Tom Brady. I think it was a serviceable day for a basement franchise currently.
As a non-Panthers fan, that's a weird way to put that. As somebody who doesn't follow the Panthers very closely, anybody who looks at the box score and sees that Teddy B threw for 367, but he had no touchdowns, what do you tell people? Like,
I mean,
Two interceptions.
2 unopportune interceptions. But I mean, the fact that he didn't throw for 2 touchdowns, or didn't throw for any touchdowns, just tells me that Christian McCaffrey's on the team, because Christian McCaffrey's your touchdown guy. He can find the end zone in a way that no other player can currently on the Panthers, and I think they're going to live and die by that mentality. You saw a 4th down conversion that was a pitch out to McCaffrey that he took all the way to the house. He didn't need to take it. He only needed to pick up the 1st down, but with the offense that Joe Brady's dialing up, he knows that chances at the end zone are limited when you're dealing with a first-year quarterback, so you're going to have to find opportunities, take the touchdown wherever you can get it with McCaffrey, and that's exactly what they did. I was very impressed with the Panthers' run defense, which has been a problem in the past. I mean, even last week, they allowed 3 rushing touchdowns to Josh Jacobs. They allowed the leading rusher for the 49ers, or the Buccaneers, rather, was Leonard Fournette with 12 carries, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think 75 of those yards came on one play when Carolina was playing prevent defense. So I think anything could have gotten through there. So, I mean, when you hold Leonard Fournette, who we've all, for many years, have known about the legend of Leonard Fournette as Auburn fans.
Yeah, when he threw that Auburn defender into the nether, yeah.
The 5-year anniversary was yesterday.
Oh, God.
When he rushes for about 30 yards and a touchdown, I consider that a victory for this Panthers defense, which I think is improving a little bit. The front that we've all come to know and love that has been assembled over the years, with Derek Brown, of course, as well as Brian Burns, picked up from Florida State in the last draft. And then Yetur Gross-Matos, who is still out with injury. I'm excited once the entire defensive line gets healthy once again, that 4-man front the Panthers are going to be running. I think it's going to be pretty difficult to play quarterback against the Panthers as they hit their stride in midseason form. So, well, I was impressed by the Panthers. I'm not going to say I expected them to win. While I did pick them to win, I thought they could maybe get a pick six, which they did. Unfortunately, it was called back. That could have changed the game for the Panthers. They did get it to within 7 points, and Tampa had a garbage time touchdown. So I'm proud of the performance they put on. They had 4 turnovers, which it's nearly impossible to win a game against a former MVP with 4 turnovers, and at least they kept it close, which is not. You can't say that about a lot of these Panthers teams in the past. So they went down. They fought hard, and I listened to the Panthers radio broadcast, and it seemed like the sentiment was the same from the home team radio. So it's a developing team. I'm not expecting them to win more than 5 games this year, but to see them compete and to see all the young talent they have, it's just waiting for one more catalyst to come together, as well as Robbie Anderson, who now looks like Teddy Bridgewater's deep man. His ability to make catches. He had a great catch as he was falling out of bounds to bring the ball in that Matt Rule successfully challenged. So to see Teddy Bridgewater and Robbie Anderson connecting and making deep plays while you still have the threat of his legs, as well as Christian McCaffrey, hoping he gets better very soon. I think it's an interesting team moving forward, and I'm excited to see them compete down the stretch.
I'm the same way. The defense, has kind of been the issue, but they have a lot of potential, and I think that's what's important because, like I said, don't expect to win more than 5 games this year, and it's going to start the rebuild process. So as long as the defense is improving and it's young, I'm okay with everything.
Last but not least, Monday Night Football tonight, Saints, Raiders. Saints 5.5 points favorite, but it is in Vegas. We're opening it up. The Death Star is at full power, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Fully operational, yeah.
I believe in pick'em. We all pick the Saints, so we're all going one way or another.
Correct.
So, and there's no Michael Thomas, so there's that going for, I guess, the Raiders.
My third overall pick in fantasy, already disappointing me, but the Saints are going to win this pretty easily. Josh Jacobs is really good, but I don't think he's going to be good enough to beat the Saints.
Okay.
Aaron, you should have pulled that out for the Chiefs game. I don't think there are any Tech players on.
I should have pulled it out when we talked about Georgia Tech UCF, but I didn't.
Well, yeah, or Butker. So yeah, I just don't see if the Panthers are putting 30 on you, I don't see the Saints having any kind of trouble putting up points on the Raiders tonight, especially with no crowd noise. Michael Thomas, yes, he's useful in the slant, but they have a lot of other weapons. I just think that the secondary of Oakland is so weak that Drew Brees is going to be able to sneak a few throws in there where he shouldn't normally, and the running game is just going to pound down these Raiders. And I expect it to be a high scoring and maybe a 2-score game, maybe a 1-score game at halftime, but I think a lot of points are going to get scored tonight because these are two relatively weak defenses and two offenses with a lot of star power. You have a really young defensive core in Oakland with Henry Ruggs and Josh Jacobs, as well as that prolific Saints offense that they've been known for so many years. So I think it's going to be like a 40-30 game even. So we'll look for a lot of points and probably a pretty entertaining game tonight.
I hope so. I mean, I think these Raiders have a shot. Each time I look at the Raiders, I'm like, man, this team shouldn't be as good as they actually are. But I think slowly but surely they're gonna grow into something. I don't know what. They'll be like the Raiders are gonna be like the new middle of the pack team. They're gonna be like the Dolphins of the past, past 10 years. That was either 7 or 9 or 9 and 7 and nothing in between or something like that. I think this could be that Raiders team. Take that for how you will. But Monday Night Football hopefully is gonna be a lot of fun. But that does it for the show today. So thank you, Jacob and Jack, for joining me on the show. It's going to be a fun week as we get closer and closer to Auburn football versus Kentucky. That's going to be a long day for everybody. Especially, do you guys have tickets? Are you going to the game? I don't know how that's set up yet down in Auburn.
I will be there.
I'm not going, but
okay.
Not because I'm afraid of.
So it should be a lot of fun. I know I'll be up there at like 5 a.m. Getting ready for the game. So we'll see what happens. Huh?
Garrett's gonna be coming out of the bus, the charter bus, with his beats on.
You have your pregame suit ready?
Close. I mean, we gotta go through so many procedures to be able to work this game this weekend. I mean, I told you guys, but the rapid testing that we have to get done before each event. They have glass and plastic panels in the control rooms. Temperature checks. I mean, I'm going through. It's the closest I'm probably gonna get to the NBA bubble that I'll feel. So
you're just hoping there's no surprise outbreak at any point in the organization this week. So
I mean,
with the team, the coaching staff, broadcasters, or otherwise.
Pretty much, that's the reason why I'm pretty much stuck in my room for 20 of 24 hours each day. I only get 4 hours of activity time out in the yard when they let me out. So that does it for the Extra Point here on WEGL 911.
Great for Jared's handlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say Jared's stuck in his cage.
Hard to keep that under control.
The only friend I got is little Buzzy Bee over there behind me that I talk to in the corner. But that does it for the Extra Point here on WEGL 911 and WEGLFM.com. For Jacob Hillman and Jack Hart, I'm Jared Dillon. Thank you for joining us on the Extra Point here on WEGL 911 and WEGLFM.com.